Hi, everyone. Welcome back, everyone. It's good to see you. Welcome to another episode of Uncovering Hidden Healing. I'm your host, Arletha Lizana, healer, educator, and founder of Sable Women. So each week, we dive deep into the spiritual, emotional, physical, and ancestral tools to help our people heal and grow and rise for generations. So this series is brought to you in partnership with Sable Women Incorporated, Morehouse School of Medicine, and Prometra International. So, all in celebration of our African and African diaspora natural and traditional medicine certificate program. We are reclaiming what has always been ours, our healing, our wisdom, our power. And today we're talking about something that doesn't always get recognized as a healing tool, but it absolutely is the idea of structure. So, yes, family, we're talking about spiritual structure, sacred planning, vision, and strategy rooted in purpose, right? Because for us, as we all know, healing is not just about what we're letting go of, but it's also about what we're building, where we're going, and how we're getting there. So, whether you're an entrepreneur, a student, a healer, or someone at the crossroads, right? This episode is about learning how to align your inner clarity with intentional action so you can move forward in your power, purpose, and peace. So, to help guide us through this powerful conversation, I'm honored once again to welcome a woman who has worked so beautifully. She blends ancient wisdom with modern mastery. That's Nzingha Samuel-Owusu. So, Nzinga is a transformational strategist and intuitive coach who works with executives, entrepreneurs, and visionary leaders to bring bold visions to life. Her signature approach is rooted in wisdom, traditions, mindfulness, and African centered strategy, helping clients achieve extraordinary results with clarity, focus, and flow. So she is just really a bold and powerful person. Like I said, she teaches us that success isn't just about pushing harder. It's about moving in alignment with your purpose, your ancestors, and your spirit. So, Zinga, welcome back to Uncovering Hidden Healing. We're so grateful to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm excited about this conversation.
Yeah, I'm excited too. So when we had Zinga was with us in season one, so she was like the highest watched show. So we had to have her back, right? Of course, right? And so we really there was so much that we left off from the last one because we just went over time. And so we thought we'd have her back to really kind of zone in, on this sacred success. So, let's begin with your journey. So what led you to do this work, helping people align spiritually and strategically for success?
So, interestingly enough, similar to my other journey for education, so the first one was about education being a tool for hidden healing.
Yeah.
This one is about strategic success, spiritual success. So, I
Mhm.
wanted to ground the conversation in us all thinking about who was a mentor in our lives. And ironically, we started the last conversation the same way. Who was a powerful teacher in your life, right? And so you find that the powerful teacher in your life was also a mentor.
Mhm.
And this concept of knowledge transfer is
Mhm.
one of our ancient tools. How do you transfer knowledge? It is not in a classroom. It is not with students sitting in desk and a teacher in the front of the room. It
Mhm.
is from a person to another person. And there's just no replacement for it. AI can optimize it. It
Right.
can make things simpler, it can make things quicker, but it cannot replace it
That's
because
right.
there's something that cannot be replaced with our traditions, and that's intuition. So, one thing you realize when you speak to people is that we have now disassociated strategy from spirituality,
That's right. Mhm.
structure from intuition. So, if you're structured, you're
Mhm.
not emotional. If you're
Mhm.
strategic, it has nothing to do with spirituality. So,
Right.
I want
Right.
to
Right.
integrate that again. Like,
Mhm.
no, you should be using your intuition as the framework and the structure to do the thing, right? You should be using your spirituality to create structure. So that's
Okay.
where I want to take the conversation from. So I got
Right.
here from studying
Mhm.
traditional African spiritual systems for over 20
Mhm.
years, looking at things again. I went to China, I went to India, I did all the things. I traveled, I went to Jamaica, I spent a lot of time there, and I'm paying attention to students in a classroom. That's always like, you know how people can watch ants build and then they like see the
Yeah.
entire world systems by watching it. That's what I do when I watch students in the classroom. I listen to
That's
their
right.
conversations in the hallways. I pay attention to the way they take in knowledge. I pay
Mhm.
attention to what is dropping off before the teacher asks them the question again. And
Right.
what I realize is that all humans move on instinct.
That's right.
We have all of this complication, but we're really moving from our instincts. So if a
That's right.
teacher can match what they're talking about to a child's instincts, all of a sudden it's resonating. And when you see this resonance, you can almost see it. If you're a person who can see and you really can feel energy, you can see the colors of the room change. Like you may go in there and it's like brown and a little bit like, I don't know what she's about to teach today. I'm not really wanting to be here. And then
Mhm.
everyone gets on the same accord and it's a rhythm.
That's right. And it
Colors
lights up.
like
Mhm.
orange, it lights up.
Mhm.
Exactly. It goes to orange to yellow, closer to white. And you just
Mhm.
see everybody moving in this rhythm and everyone is resonating on the same frequency. I don't want to make this too deep, but once
Oh,
you
you
see,
can't go as deep as you would like. This is great. Yep. Yep.
okay, good. Once you see kind of reach that frequency, that's when you see knowledge transfer happen.
That's
It's
right.
not when the test is given. It's not when
Mhm.
the teacher does the review. It's not the exit ticket. It's actually when everyone has this sense of resonance. And
Mhm.
sometimes it happens when the teacher is one on one or another
Mhm.
student is one on one with that student. So the
Mhm.
teacher is speaking, yeah, X is a variable. It goes over
Mhm.
their head, right?
Right.
Then the student explains, oh, you know how when you kick that ball on the soccer field, this happened? That's because you were able to calculate. You did it naturally. The student goes,
Mhm.
oh, that's what they mean by X.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah. That's
and
right.
that moment, there's a synergy.
That's right.
So what I do with coaching is like try to find that moment between me and the coachee, and then really, I hate to use the word exploit, it has a negative connotation, but really
Right.
like exploit it, like blow it up. Let's stay
Mhm.
right here. Okay, we
Mhm.
found our synergy. So the beginning part of the session is all about what are you on? What am I on? And normally people come because they want to make money. So
Yeah.
people come to the session, they're like, hey,
Or enter wherever you need to enter. Yep. I get it.
wherever you need to answer. And in the conversation about their business, I hear that they're still sad about the loss of their mother.
Mm. Yep.
Random, right?
Yep.
They're
Yeah.
talking about business and they're like, yeah, and my mom used to always celebrate me. And I'm like, oh, well,
Mhm.
how did, what do you miss about that? Well, she believed in me. And then we
Mhm.
start getting into self belief that they
Mhm.
honestly still don't really believe in themselves. And so they
Mhm.
need external validation to
Mhm.
really feel full. So the
Mhm.
reason their business is not thriving has nothing to do with money, has
Mhm.
everything to do with their belief system. But
That's
you
right.
don't get that from saying, okay, what about your business? Did you put this system in place? Did you do this?
Yeah.
You have
That's
to
right.
really, as a coach, be open and your intuition has to be receiving. So it's a conversation like everything is. But yeah, spirituality, success, structure, intuition, vision, all of these things work in tandem. If you like any sports, which I'm sure anyone watching this has at least one they like,
Yeah.
there is nobody in sports history that didn't have a good coach. It could have been
Mhm.
the father. I always think about everybody from Michael Jackson to Tiger Woods to Venus and
Mhm.
Serena. You peel their layer back. There is a father
That's right.
behind them. Get it,
Somebody. Yep.
swing it,
Yes.
get it.
Exactly.
Somebody,
Yeah.
right? A mother,
Yes. Mhm.
an uncle, an auntie, a cousin, somebody who wasn't even related that's now their cousin. There's always
Mhm.
somebody, besides even the coach from that actual system, there's
Yeah.
someone that stays in their ear. I think the best example of this, before I let Arletha take the microphone again,
I'm just gonna, I'll let you talk. Let's talk, right? Yeah.
the best example of this is like watching Mike Tyson or a fighter prepare for a fight.
Mhm.
They get in their zone and there's literally someone in their ear telling them
Mhm.
who they are. They are
Mhm.
not
Yeah.
they're not predicting the future. They
Yep.
don't know what's going to happen, but that person telling them you're the best that ever is. They can't even see you.
That's right.
Who do they think they are? The fighter
Yeah.
comes
Yeah.
out to music that gets in their head. They
That's
have a
right.
person in their ear and they get in a zone and that's where they fight. It's the same concept. To get in
Yes.
your zone, like to really optimize whatever it is you're here to do in this world, you need
Yep.
somebody in your ear. Do they know who you are? Do you know what you
Yeah.
can do? Come on,
That's
let's
right.
get. And then you put your music on. If anyone went jogging, you
Yeah.
put your right
Yeah.
music on. My mom can jog to Luther Vandross. It's like a joke in our family. But like,
Yeah.
how do you jog? And she said because she can sing and zone out.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Yeah.
even see
Exactly.
anybody because she's singing so hard, right?
That's
Anything
right.
that gets you into that zone. So that's what coaching does. It just creates a
Yeah. Yeah.
framework to quickly get you into the zone so that we can
Mhm.
look at things like your vision,
Mhm.
your own intuition. How can you
That's
tap
right.
in more strategically and more frequently and quickly? Because most of us can get to our intuition, but we got to go around the woods. We got to
Mhm.
knock on grandma's door. We got to stop at Chick-fil-A. We got to then go to,
Yep.
you know what I
Absolutely.
mean? Like to get there.
Yep.
We gotta,
Yep.
and then don't turn on the TV because the news is adding another layer, and the
That's
coach
right.
is able to kind of just streamline and cut through all of that and say, "Oh,
Yeah.
you want
Yeah.
your business to thrive? You really
That's
need to
right.
believe in yourself." So that's
Yep.
how I.
And you, I know you said so much, but just one thing that really just kind of popped in my head immediately is that concept of being in the ear, right? And so when we look at it, so African in terms of like the
Right,
jelly and jelly in ancient Mali, like they're hyping up, they're saying your family lineage and everything, exploit all the wonderful things your family did on down to you, and like why you need to do this and how important and big you
right,
are and all of that. So they're bigging you up. But then also on the converse, when sometimes when people are negative and they say, "Oh, why you all in my ear?" So it's like,
right.
yeah, it's
And
that
then
same
you
thing.
have
So but the real to be discerning when
Mhm.
someone is not in your ear correctly, as well. So those are a couple of things that came up. But let me ask you this. So you use the term sacred success. So it's like, how do you break that down? Like, what does that mean, and why is success a healing practice?
Okay. So if I
Mhm.
say that everything is mental and in your mind, people get that. They're like, yeah, everything's in your mind. So
Mhm.
I can go out today and it can rain and I can say, this is such a beautiful day. I love the rain. And
Right,
someone else can say, I hate the rain. It's gloomy. I can't
right.
get any work done like this, right? Because it's
Mhm.
all in our mind and the way we interpret it. But
Right.
where does your mind sit? The only
Mhm.
place we really place it is in the brain. It also sits in our spirit.
It
So
does, yeah.
there's this level of, there's a, we know that the spirit is a sacred place
Hmm.
to hold anything. It's a container. It is a
Right.
thing and it's also a container for more things, right?
Hmm.
So if our
Hmm.
mind sits in our spirit, then anything that comes of that has to be sacred. So even success, because it came from your mind. You envisioned this business, or you envisioned finishing school, or you envisioned completing whatever that goal is. That vision is sacred. Wherever it
Hmm.
came from, it was
That's right.
spiritual. So
That's right.
that's how I kind of qualify sacred success.
Mhm.
People understand vision, but they don't connect it to spirit. But where
That's
did
right.
it come from? Like, why is that your vision? Because your
Mhm.
vision isn't mine.
That's right.
Like,
Yep.
we're all given these visions, and whatever you believe in, whether it comes from inside of you, something is given it to you, there's a relationship, but
Hmm.
you feel
Right.
it. And it's almost like you won't be well without it.
That's
You
right.
won't you won't be
Yep.
whole without it. If you don't at
Yep.
least
So,
understand
yep.
vision,
That's right. Yep. So
you
that's why it's healing, because you need it to be whole.
you
Hmm.
need it to be whole. If
Yep.
you
Yep.
don't do the thing, you will
Hmm.
never feel 100%. You can let this work, you can live in this life, you can pass on, but you will
Hmm.
never feel like you tried your best this lifetime. It's like you're just waiting. It's like you're living every day passing away, but you're not
Hmm.
living every day,
That's
right? So
right.
that concept of sacred success is, to be successful is a sacred art, because you
Hmm.
have to lock in. You have to forget the naysayers. You have to put the right people in your ear. You
That's
have
right.
to change your environment. It's a lot that goes into being successful and then
Yep.
sustaining this success.
Hmm.
I say reaching that point is easy, but my coach, oh, I had a great coach. I'm going to shout you out, Aronde. He was a
Yeah.
great coach during the time I was
Mhm.
closing Black Star. I was so stressed out. I was losing my hair. I went gray in my 20s, all of these things. And I'm speaking to him, and he's drawing a picture on his paper, and he shows me the picture, and it's just like almost like a tessellation. He just kept drawing a
Mhm.
circle, a
Uh-huh.
square,
Uh-huh.
a circle, and a square, and I was like, "What?" He said, "This is your pattern." And I'm like, "What is my pattern?" And he said, "To keep doing things longer than you need to."
Huh. Right. You're
What?
like, wow.
What? You stay in a
I
relationship
love all
longer than
that. So
you
you
need
said
to.
patterns. That's right. Long as you need to. Yeah. And
He's
that,
like,
that's an energy pattern, a spiritual pattern, all those things. Can even
all
be an
those things.
ancestral. It can't even be an ancestral pattern. So it's like, yep. Wow. That's so
That,
deep.
right? And he drew it in geometric shapes. That was my language. I
Yeah.
understood that. He
Yeah.
turned
You're
the
like,
pages, and I was like, "Who is
mm-hmm,
that?" He's like,
mm-hmm.
"That's you. You're repeating the pattern." Do you remember when you spoke about this? Do you remember you said it was time to leave this relationship and you didn't? You remember
Yep.
this and then you stayed too long? And he was
Mhm.
like, "Why don't you transition the school into something else?" And I was like, "I can't. People are depending on me." And he
Yeah.
said, "But you don't even have you." Right? Broke
Oh,
me
yeah.
open.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, okay.
That's
And I was like, "Well, what could that look like?" And he helped
absolutely.
me envision a new level of success, because I had
Mhm.
defined myself by Black Star Educational Institute. I didn't even know really who I was
Mhm.
without that, right? And if that failed, what does that mean about me? And that's what my
Yeah.
coach helped me do. And I was so inspired. I was like, man, this really works.
Yeah.
This
No,
really
that
works.
I mean, that's awesome. I mean, and it's just kind of like going into my next question. It's like a, a bridge because so many people are like shifting careers. Some people are navigating major life challenges. Like, so how can the sacred structure like help us move through uncertainty with like confidence and grace?
Okay. So I'm going to say something. Healing
Mm-hmm.
clears the static.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much noise. The more closely you get to your own healing, it clears the static. So you
Mm-hmm.
have these past wounds, and
Mm-hmm.
you're actually operating from those wounds as opposed to a position of clarity, a position of expansion, a position of enlightenment. You're really operating from your past wounds. I always
That's right.
describe it as a record. And
Yeah.
if anybody has seen a record that's watching this,
Yeah.
records have grooves.
Some of the young people are like, what is that? But no, a vinyl record, you guys.
You got to get
Right.
one. You got to get one. Um, they have grooves in it, and that's actually where the player is playing the music from, right? And so I tell people, when you have these traumas or these past wounds, it creates a groove in your record, and you keep playing the same sound
Mm-hmm.
because it's playing the same groove. So
Yeah.
you kind of have to smooth out your groove to get a different sound, a different resonance, a different level of success. In order to do that, you have to heal. You have
Mm-hmm.
to look at your past wounds because you're operating from that same level of self. You have to
That's right.
take yourself to a new level of self.
Yeah.
There's one author, I don't want to misquote him, but he says, you can't fix an issue at a level of self that you're still operating that you created it from.
Right. Mm-hmm.
If
That's
you
right.
got in a very toxic relationship and you're still toxic, you
You're
can't say,
still
I
the
want to
same
leave this.
person. Yeah. I
There's a
can't
tether.
because yeah, you're not able to leave. Yep.
You're not able to leave. You keep
Mhm.
going
So
back.
you
So
have to
you
create a new mindset, new energy. Yep. In order to get out
that's
of it.
it. And clear the static to get out of it. And that's what a coach helps you do. A coach really helps you through transitions. And
Mm-hmm.
what is life if not transitions, right? So the I have more, I won't say more clients at this time. I will say more inquiries at this time because of what's happening in the world.
Yeah.
So the chaos in the world is making people feel very unsteady.
Mm-hmm.
So what coaching does is it steadies you. It
Right.
gives you something to plant your feet in. So you're like, I don't know what's going to happen next, but I know what I'm doing. And
That's
that's all
right.
you need to know. I can't control what I can't control, but what I can control, let me work
Mm-hmm.
on that. Right? So
That's
you may say, I can't sustain a diet plan. The person may say, maybe you don't need a diet right now. Maybe you just
right.
walk every day.
Yeah.
Maybe
Maybe
you
just
can't.
walk. That's
Yeah,
right.
maybe you try one new thing and maybe it's not the food chain. And then when you
Mhm.
start walking, you inspire yourself. And then next you start changing your diet. So they just kind of help you really orient and organize yourself so that you are locked in to your vision, short
That's right.
term and long term. If you
Mm-hmm.
want to run a marathon, I
Mm-hmm.
remember I ran a marathon on Thanksgiving in Atlanta years ago. And Jifa called me the day I was running and she said, "What are you doing right now?" And I said, "I'm about to run a half marathon." I ran a half marathon. I think it was Publix half marathon
Oh.
on Thanksgiving Day. And she said, "When did you train for that?" I didn't and I've ran about 5 marathons, some in Jamaica, half marathons,
Yeah.
13.1.
Yeah.
Cookie, myself, my mother, we
Yeah.
show up and we run. They train. I don't really train for it, but I get
Right.
my mind. I get
That's right.
my mind is very strong. Like my
Yeah.
spirit is
So
tough.
yeah, my
I
mind
believe
said
in
we can
myself.
do it. So we're doing it.
Yeah. Now I
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
have my ankle. I did. I
Right,
just,
but you
just
did, but you got through
I
it.
did it.
You got
I
through it
did it.
because it's something you set your mind to. So it kind of,
Yeah.
like reminds me, like we talk about trees, and like trees are rooted, and then when the storm comes, they're bending and swaying, but they're rooted. So it's like that. Making sure that you are on your plan, you on your
Mhm.
route, and you have your stability there. So things, may shift a little bit. Like you said, you may not diet this week, you may walk more this week to
Right.
compensate, so it's like you kind of have to be flexible, but you have that root there. So I like how you described it, and I like how you described the mindset, because I was going to ask you about like what are some common like energetic or mindset blocks that people experience when they're trying to move
Mm.
forward. So you were just talking about how your mind was strong enough to get you, you decided you wanted to do something, and then you're laughing, but it's true. And I
It was
always say
crazy.
that, like, if you're people say if you set your mind to, you can do it. And you're like, people will set you up and say you can't do that. Like, you didn't train for it. And you're like, yes, I can.
That's the
So
biggest
but
block. That's the
Yeah,
biggest block. What you just
it's a
said.
block.
People say
Exactly.
you can't do it is the biggest
Yeah.
block you'll ever have.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
used to say, what people say doesn't have any impact on me. It does. It does.
Mhm.
Because in my quiet moments, the track, whatever they said, I'm even having to overcome it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Why? Why am I even having to overcome what someone said to me? I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I don't think that's true for me. And then I was thinking, I
But you
need
still
to
got, even though you know it, you still got to think through it. It's
gotta
still,
think through it. You
yeah.
still have to
Yeah.
think through it.
Yeah.
And I have become very selfish with my ears at
Yeah.
this time. I'm very
That's
selfish
true.
with who I give an ear to.
Hmm.
I'm not as nosy as I used to be because I realized I don't really want to even know that.
Right.
What am I going to do with that information?
Exactly. I don't want to know the answer. I don't want
I
to
don't
see
want to
that.
know it. I don't want to know it
Yeah,
because
I'm like that. I don't want to see it. Like I'm more discerning with TV shows because I'm
yeah,
like, I know it's gonna be a mess. I don't want to see it. But then at the same time, I'll watch something really crazy. My husband's like, "Why are you watching that?" I was like, "Because like I already know." Like, but a lot of stuff, I'm like, I don't want to see that.
I
Yeah.
don't want to
So
see
it's
that.
funny.
I don't
Yeah.
want to hear that.
Yeah.
Um, I will say a large mental block is definitely naysayers,
Mm-hmm.
people that speak against you. I'm going to say something controversial. It is
It's okay.
almost as if they're doing spiritual work against you, their
Hmm.
words. That's how powerful it is.
Yes,
When
that's deep.
someone is speaking against you and they're in
That's
your
right.
personal space, in your personal circles, and they do it with negative intentions, it is
Mhm.
almost as if they're doing spiritual work against you.
You are so
So
right. Yeah.
you
Yeah,
have
it is.
to,
It's like the same thing, whether intentional or unintentional. It's the same thing.
it's the
And
same
even
thing.
the unintentional, you don't really, you don't know, what
I
that
know, but
really
it has
means.
an impact because someone
Exactly.
repeats it to you and you're like, why did you even repeat that to me?
Yes, why would
Um,
you say that?
I
Yeah.
remember my mom
That's why I
told me,
always say that. I say I try to be careful, but what I think I even said this to you, I said I was trying to be careful with my own fear.
mhm,
Yeah, I said this to you recently. So I was like, I'm not trying to protect. I was trying. So it took me so long because I didn't want to like give you my own fear of
right.
it because that could not be a thing. You know what I mean? So I was
But
trying to be careful with what I was saying. Yeah.
But even when you say that, right, your level of
Yeah.
awareness, then I can take it with that level of
Yeah.
awareness.
It's
So
different.
I
Yeah.
tell people you have to also speak to people who are whole or on their journey to become whole
Yeah.
because the broken parts of them will rub on the broken parts of you and you
Mhm.
all can, what they're calling now trauma bond.
Trauma bonding.
The name will change in another couple of years, but
Right.
right now we say
It's
trauma
true
bond.
though. Yeah, it's true. And people don't even know that because I've said it in the office setting. I was like, oh, they're trauma bonded. And they're like, I'm like, it is because your misery, like, oh, this place is miserable. And then you got everybody else believing it's miserable. And it's really not
Exactly.
miserable. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I've even been speaking to a supervisor in a meeting and I'm like, this is never going to happen. And the second they change their energy, I feel off from even
Yeah.
complaining. The
Yeah.
second they say, oh, well, we're going to push forward anyway, it doesn't
Hmm.
give any space anymore for me to stay where I was. Right.
Yeah.
And so
Hmm.
I'm always intentionally shifting the space like, yeah, it is. You're right.
You're
But
right. Yes. But
you know what
when
I
you,
mean? Validate that and then move forward. So I that's a major block. Another major block is people's own inner voice.
yeah.
People's inner voice they seem to be trained to say they cannot do something. I was
Hmm.
speaking to Lawaba earlier, and she was saying how she trained Micah, my son, to love Drake since he was a baby. And he's always loved Drake, right? So she just played a new Drake song and he loves it. But she was like, does he love it or did I train him to love it? his, his ears are tuned to
True,
Drake.
tuned it. Right. Like, okay, that's hilarious.
And I was
That's
telling her that everything is an attunement.
no, it's
Every
true.
time,
Because
every
I
time you
swear,
speak with
I
you,
trained my girls on good music. So they'll tell
they
you, like
do.
when they were in elementary school, I'm like, okay, we're gonna dissect Parliament and why everything is on the one and what the one means. It's like I know they were like, okay, mom, we're four. So what I did, like you said. So I think that's a thing. I
It's
think
a thing. I trained Mike on Stevie Wonder. He
yeah,
can sing as front and back. Like
that's
that's
right.
our duet.
That's right. Exactly.
Before he knew how to add, he was adding Stevie Wonder's math.
Exactly. He was like, I can do that. Exactly.
That was our song. I
Yep.
was like, wait, you have to understand music. And
That's right.
then
Yeah, and yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think
so
it's so
and
important.
I was telling her, she said she was realizing, man, everything's training. I said, everything is training, which is
Yeah.
why when you're training for any event, you have a coach,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
so everything is training. You're training your mind, your ear. You're trying to see, you're kind of playing with yourself. If you look at life as play, it really
Mhm.
becomes a fun game.
Yeah.
If you don't take yourself too seriously, if you don't take life too seriously, it's
Mm.
all a game of play. So you
Yeah.
want to know, oh, this makes me tick. Let me not do that again.
Yeah.
This, I really get in the zone. Sometimes I do hard things on purpose to
Hmm.
lock.
That's
So
right.
I
Yeah.
remember I was asking you
Hmm.
10 years ago when I moved to China, which part should I move to? I was like,
Hmm.
should I move to Tianjin or Beijing? Tianjin
Hmm.
or Beijing? And then you were like, Tianjin is near water. Tianjin, they also don't speak as much English. That will be better for you. I was able to pick up Mandarin much quicker
Right.
because I was not in my comfort zone.
Yeah.
I had
Yep.
to
That's it.
survive,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? So having to survive,
Hey,
like,
I need to speak this Mandarin real quick. Yep. Mhm.
I was like, how do I say I don't eat pork? How do I say this? How
That's
do I
right.
say excuse me? How do I say I'm
Yeah.
sorry? How do I say
Yep.
please? Like,
Yep.
you know. And
Mhm.
then in that, I would record people saying it, and I
Mhm.
would just keep practicing moving
Oh,
my mouth and
yeah.
making the sounds. As ignorant as it seemed, I would make the sounds before I understood how to
Yeah.
make the words.
That's
And
right.
then I went from sounds to words, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then now when someone is speaking in Mandarin, I hear every word. I mean, I remember the meaning, but I can hear every word break. Before it was like one sound to me.
Yeah.
Now it's like, can you please hand me the, you know what I mean? And I
Mhm.
say that because I tell myself all the time, you can do hard things. So I have to engage it. So when I say coach and tune your ear and don't listen to people and do this and lock in, I don't mean so life is easy
Yeah.
at all.
It's
I mean,
no.
so whenever life comes, you're able to root yourself and you
Mhm.
sway, but you don't break.
Mhm.
And then it starts to become fun. So
Yeah.
one of the things I do to overcome the mental block of my inner voice and any external voice is I do a goal. I'm going to mess up. I don't remember his name either. He says you should choose a goal that's 10x your reality. So you
Mhm.
don't choose a goal that's right here because
That's right.
if you don't catch it, you're going to just fall short and then you
Yeah.
don't feel
Yeah.
strong,
Like, you're like, I'm still okay. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
I'm
You
good.
choose a goal that's 10x outside of you. And
Mhm.
in trying to reach your 10x goal, you're going to hit this goal.
Yeah.
So if I say, let me try to run a full marathon,
Yeah.
if I don't meet that goal, I can run a half.
Yeah.
13.1 miles, it's not a
It's
small feat.
yeah, that's pretty good, right?
And I don't
That's
run with
great.
music. I don't run with
Yeah.
music anymore.
Yeah.
I
Right.
purchased the new iPod when it came out, had my name inscribed on it and everything. Went to run in Jamaica. New Market said it cut off. It cut off. It was generation one, could
Yeah.
not deal with the mist in the air,
Yeah.
and it cut
It
off.
was done.
I mean, devastation. I had 13 miles worth of music that
Right. You're like, I was all
curated.
right. Nope.
It was just mental. It was just
Yeah.
me in the
Like, I
street.
have this sound. Okay, I got this soundtrack in my head. Here we go.
Here we go.
Right.
So you even the best laid plans, right? They never go the way you think
Mhm.
they are. But if you 10x a goal, even if
Mhm.
you fall short, you still hit something. And within that, you have several goals to that bigger one. So one
Mhm.
of mine was I want to be a community organizer. I want to create literal community. And I want to create it first in West Africa. And I'm choosing Ghana.
Mhm.
And I'm going to go from there. So
Mhm.
again, I'm always listening to coaches. And one said the way you introduce yourself in a room is the way people will receive you. So I keep introducing myself this way. And then
Mhm.
somebody reaches out to me and
Mhm.
I just in January, I was
Yeah.
on a flight from Accra to Kumasi. The in-flight magazine, I think it wasn't Ghana Airways. What airline? African World Airline, AWA.
Yeah. Every world. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
The in-flight, the
And that's that
centerfold.
had to be like the biggest like like
I was screaming. I was like, "Excuse me, hey,
excuse
you
me.
are
That guy's like, this
African?
is me. Hey,
This
flight attendant.
She didn't care. I mean, she
Right.
didn't.
She was
And in
like,
true Ghanaian
ma'am,
fashion, she was like,
we're
"Girl."
trying to get in this air, right? No, but that had to be the biggest. That's great. That's awesome.
It was
No.
validating because it wasn't like anyone put me on that pedestal. It
Yeah.
wasn't that anyone told me to do it.
Yeah.
That vision came from within me. I introduced myself as that. I engaged the work.
Yeah.
I was recognized. Somebody from the UK reached out via
Yeah.
LinkedIn. He
Yeah.
said, I published the magazine. We
Yeah.
would love to feature you. Can you tell us brunch spots and places in Kumasi?
Yeah.
I
I'm
was
like,
like, yes, I can. And
wow.
so
Yeah.
I say that because I push myself 10x all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
I hit the 10x goal a lot of the time because
Mm-hmm.
I believe that I see myself as that person. And
Yeah.
so once people kept responding to me in this way, I realized, oh, this is a gift.
Mm-hmm.
This is not just, I'm just a coach.
Yeah.
I'm intuitive. I'm present in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I do it with love.
Mm-hmm.
I have the best of intentions for the person. I understand
Mm-hmm.
structure. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a mother.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a business owner.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a wife. I live by coastal. I travel.
Yeah,
Like I have these layers that
that's
are
right.
inspiring to people, and I can connect well with people
Yep.
because I've connected with people in different places. I do
Mm-hmm.
hard things. I'm still on my journey. I can share
Yep.
that where
Yep.
there's an overlap. So I'm
That's
not saying I've arrived.
yep.
I'm
You're
not
right.
saying as a clinician. So like I was like, this is a perfect space for me. The second I said it, I was getting a haircut by Ruben in Atlanta. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, I think this is over 10 years ago when I had my hair shaved. And I
Uh-huh.
said, Ruben, I think I'm gonna start being a coach. I started taking some training sessions and I
Mm-hmm.
love it. I love my coach. I always have a coach. I just believe in
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that commercial back in the day when he said, I'm not only the president, I'm also a client.
Yeah, I'm also the hair club client. That's right. That's right.
That's
That's true.
me. I'm not only coaching, I also always have a coach or two or
Right.
three.
That's right. No, it's true. Always. I tell her that all the time. I have coaches, mentors, all the people. That's right.
All the things, all the things. And he said, I said, I'm going to begin coaching. I've done the training. I have a certificate. I love it. I prayed about it. And it feels like it's my journey. He came back. He brought me one client. He was like, oh, she just told me she needed a coach. That was one of my longest standing clients.
Yeah.
She went back to work. Her coworker said, what changed about you? You have
Yeah.
the worst attitude and
Yeah.
you seem so happy. Every time we want to talk about somebody, you shutting us down. She said, I'm working with this coach, and I got 3 clients
That's
from
right.
that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
She said she was on a conversation about on a group call with her family, speaking to her brother, and her brother said, who are you? I don't even know this person.
Right. Like I don't
What
know
are
this
you
person.
doing? Are
Exactly.
you doing a new workout program? She said, I got a coach. Her brother's in Philly. He's like, oh, does she do it long distance? Because I was meeting people in
Yeah.
person in
Yeah.
Atlanta.
Yeah.
And that's how I became a virtual coach,
That's right.
right? That's how I became doing men
Yeah.
and
It's
women.
like, sure,
And
I'll do it. No, I think that's awesome because I think
yeah,
you could always tell like an energy shift. So it's not only the person, yes, it's the person saying this coach helped me and did so much, but it's the energy shift that you see
right,
like right away. So she probably got on the phone with her family, like, and they were like, who is that? You're so different. You're right.
right,
Yeah. Yeah.
right. And
Yeah.
I was telling her, she was like, they get on my nerves. Everything is so hard. And I said, well, if you say it, then it is. It doesn't have to
Exactly.
be so hard. And
Exactly.
so language tells you someone's mindset. So when
Mm.
people are just speaking, you catch it. I
Mhm.
take notes and then I read it back to them. Is
Yep,
that what you
yep.
meant to
That's
say?
that's what actually I was going to get into that next because I wanted you to kind of speak directly to the audience about like what you want them to know, like about coaching and clarity and healing and ancestral alignment, like your philosophy and like how you talked about some client stories, but you may have more of like your framework or your tools, like how you do your coaching, like your I guess we're asking you for your magic. Explain your magic here. But no, as
Okay.
best you can, just kind of explain what you do and like how people encounter you and then how you're able to help transform lives.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that's a lot.
I'm
How do
sorry.
you get
I know I added that. Like added transform lives. You're like, okay, there she
I
went too far.
transform lives
Yeah,
by
but just explain what you do and why I know why it's so
okay,
important.
okay. I can do that. I can do that.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I will tell you that I will say my je ne sais quoi, you
Mhm.
all don't correct my French, is
Yeah. Yeah.
coaching helps build resilience.
Mhm.
That is the main thing that I'm looking to build with anyone I'm coaching. So
Mhm.
whether it's a student, an entrepreneur, whether it's somebody going through a transition of any kind, I'm
Mhm.
looking to build their resilience because we know this world takes resilience. So if you don't have that, you have
Mhm.
nothing to snap back to. You're
Mhm.
just kind of constantly in the moment and you're allowing factors to keep swaying you.
Mhm.
So building your resilience. Also, I'm looking to look at your past wounds, and I'm not looking at it from a clinical standpoint. I'm looking at it to see the impact it has on your today.
Right.
So I tell people personality is not fixed, and neither are memories.
That's
So
right.
sometimes we do an activity about personality and memory. So I say, who are you? And then they tell me all things about their personality, things that really validate them, that they live by. And then I say, but what if for you to reach that next level, your personality has to shift a little bit?
Mhm.
And they say, well, that's who I am. And I said, but you can change. That's you controlling that. And so
Mhm.
I just remind everybody nothing is fixed. Everything you is in your control,
That's
right?
right.
And then we set their set point is their vision. So we
Mhm.
start with what is your set point? And then from there, we kind of look at their spiral, their family life, their past, their present. What are they looking to achieve? And
Mhm.
then when they're speaking, I start to hear and take note of, you realize you keep saying, but I don't care, but I don't
Yeah.
care, but I
Right.
don't care.
Yeah.
And then they say, oh, and I said, is that something that you've learned so that things don't feel too heavy? And
Mhm.
so then we start unpacking. And so typically sessions 1 through 3 is just literally getting to know one another,
Mhm.
opening the suitcase and unpacking all of the things. Then
Mhm.
after that, we get to fly.
That's right.
So I can give you a case study. I have one client, she's in California. She said, I'm just not feeling myself. My face is inflamed and I'm just not
Mhm.
myself.
Mhm.
So one thing I gave her was an actual thing to do for the inflammation.
That's right.
And 3 sessions later, she never did it.
Yeah.
She said, I'm about to go take this medicine and I'm going to see another dermatologist. And I said, oh, did you try the tea tree oil thing that I was telling you to put on your face to take
Uh-huh.
down the inflammation? And she said, I have to be honest, I didn't. I said, oh, you mind if I ask you why?
Yeah.
And she said, this is my pattern. I collect knowledge and things and try
Mhm.
this, but I don't
And
actually
I don't
do.
actually do it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I don't like to call it homework because people don't have
Uh-huh.
nothing to do with homework, but
Yeah. Fun
to
work. I don't know. Yeah.
fun
Yeah.
work,
Uh-huh.
right? At the end of the session, for continuity, there's something that I'm giving you to do on your
Mhm.
own. It also sends a signal to me that you're in this work. We're in this together.
Right.
And it sends a signal to you that you care. Because
Mhm.
where we put our time lets us know where we
That's
put
right.
our intention.
Yep.
So she sent me 3 texts and she was like, look at my face. This is magic. Do you bottle this? Oh my God,
You're
love it.
right. Like, look, you could have had this a month earlier.
I was quiet.
Yeah.
I just love the message. And she was
Yeah.
like, I know you're silent on purpose. So
Right.
she she
Right.
was like, I cannot believe she's sitting me with the whole mask on. And she was like, look at my face after. And it
Yeah.
wasn't that I was able to help her relieve or minimize inflammation in her face.
Yeah.
It was that I told her, if you say this is something you want to do, before you start looking for another doctor and at this, because we're in this consumption era.
Yeah.
So
That's right.
we're like
The
eager to
collective.
consume, collecting. We're
Yeah.
collectors.
Yeah.
We want knowledge. We
Mhm.
want medals. We
That's right.
want accolades. We
Okay.
want the doctor said. We want to brag.
Yeah.
But what we don't want to do is the work.
That's right. That's right. Because that's the harder part. But you're right. You're so right. You got to do
It's
the
the
work.
stillness
You got to do
that
the
the
thing.
magic is. It's not in all the, you
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? Like that's the fun part. You
Yeah.
think it's stressful, but it's like good stress. You like it.
That's
You
right.
like it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but that's the, you're right, because that's the fun part. You join a class or join a webinar and you get all this information you're collecting, but the hard part is actually to do what it told you to do.
Did you do any of it?
And that's where people drop off because they don't want to
That's
do
right.
the thing.
Yeah, they don't want to do the thing. I was
Yeah.
doing it myself. I
Yeah.
could tell you all the wellness theories and the diets
Yeah.
and the this and the that,
Yeah.
and you can send me this, and I'm like, yeah, I checked it out. Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then you're like, oh, okay. Did
Mhm.
you try any of it? I don't have time.
Like, I don't have time. I'm busy. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have time. I'm busy. But
Mhm.
yesterday, I read an article 2 nights ago. It changed me. I
Mhm.
woke up 2 pounds down from yesterday today, 2 pounds
Yep.
down again.
Yep.
Immediately, it changed me. You see, my fresh juice is sitting
Yep.
here next to me, and my
Yep.
water.
Yeah.
It one article because I was ready.
Hmm.
Prior to that, I collected all the things, and I've done this before. I can do it again, but I
Yeah, so
wasn't
it's kind of
doing
like
it.
when you're ready to hear things, but like as a coach, how do you, because people will like sign up for coaching, right? But like you said, they're not in it. It's like they want to hear you say all the things, but like how do you get them or get them to get themselves, I guess, ready to actually do, like you just gave
Okay,
the example. Yeah.
so this is now you all are really getting the behind the curtain.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
this is what I do to get the person locked in. We do a quick win. The
Hmm.
second you feel like a winner, that feeling will change you
Hmm.
because I can't control the way you feel, but I can control the mechanisms to get you to that point.
Yeah.
So I know for you, a big goal may be I really want to make my own earrings, right?
Hmm.
You can buy all the things, but I cannot make you make your own
Right,
earrings.
right.
But if you wear one pair and go on live and one person makes a comment, that feeling of accomplishment,
Yeah.
you're going to come back to me with
Yeah.
excitement.
Yeah.
And then, so I'm really not doing anything. I'm just setting the stage so that you can feel and experience your win.
Mm-hmm.
So I call myself a coach, but I'm more of a conductor. I
Yeah.
take it
No,
to
you're
me, and I'm
yeah.
orchestrating the musical flow, trying to get
Facilitator, conductor. Yeah, yeah. I like that. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that's how I get to the first win. Once you get the first win, we affirm it. What patterns of behavior did we observe?
Mm-hmm.
What can we do different? we do something different. And then after you look back 6 months
Mhm.
in, you're like, whoa. And then
Mhm.
I read every 3 months, I go back and kind of like read the order. Okay, this
Mhm.
is where you were. These were your goals. Did we hit them? And
Mhm.
then you'll go, that was my goal 3 months ago. Because we're far beyond that now.
Yeah,
You don't even remember
exactly.
that was a goal of yours.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and I take record every session, and then we
Mhm.
go in account,
Mhm.
almost like you're reconciling your bank account. Hey,
Mhm.
how did you spend your time here?
Yeah,
Remember, you said you didn't want to waste time anymore.
yeah,
How was it good for you?
yeah.
And of course, I'm not holding you accountable so that you can be punished.
Mhm.
Holding you accountable so you can win.
Yep.
And once you realize that, I become a part of your community.
Mhm.
So I would say my strategic advantage, or what's my method? Resilience, community, intuition. If I
Mhm.
had to give 3 words,
Yep.
I'm a part of your community. I help you build community because that is sustaining for us all.
Mhm.
That is how Facebook became so popular and social media took off
That's
because
right.
it built this makeshift community.
Yep.
He
Mhm.
realizes
Yep.
everybody
So
needs
many
a
people,
community.
right, who were isolated now have some kind of community. Yep.
They have
Yep.
some kind of community. So I become a part of your community, and strategically we create an intentional community.
Mhm.
I affirm your intuition. Oh, that vision. Okay, great. I can see where patterns in your life have led you there. So how are we going to engage that? I help you create that strategic plan. I start with the body scan.
Mhm.
So that's the part that becomes a little bit spiritual for people, but
Yeah.
that's the part they actually like the most. So
Mhm.
in the beginning, they're like, skin in my body? Yes. You
Yeah.
sit in a comfortable position, and we can do it really quickly.
Mhm.
Body, so you can sit with your 2 feet on the floor, or you can cross your legs. I'm also a yogi.
Mhm.
Um, so
Mhm.
however you feel like sitting. And
Mhm.
then do 3 breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth. Just calm yourself because people come to the session.
Yeah, they're all hype. Yeah. Yeah.
Music.
Yeah.
And then have the person close their eyes softly if they want to. If they don't, they can leave them open. And as if it was a machine, they envision it coming from the top of their head all the way down their body. And they're
Mhm.
doing a scan. And they're
Mhm.
just looking for places where their body is speaking to them.
Mhm.
Like, this eye feels like it's jumping a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, my nose is a little bit stuffed up from the pollen.
Uh-huh.
You may get here and say, "Oh, my throat's a little scratchy," but you
Mhm.
won't say anything to the end. You
Mhm.
just observe your body, and we go all the way down.
Mhm.
While you're doing it, I'm also doing it with you, right?
Mhm.
But I'm scanning you, and you're scanning yourself.
Mhm.
And then I ask you which parts of your body spoke to you. And so
Mhm.
we always start with the body because that's where we hold our emotions, so that we can get our emotional states in order.
Right.
And then I say, okay, so what are we going to do for our throat this week? How are we going to clear
Yeah.
that up? How are we going to speak more? How are we going to, oh, you feeling a block? And what I'm doing also is affirming the connection back with mind and body. Because if we can remember who we are,
Mhm.
oh, I can feel when I'm out of sorts. I
Yeah.
can feel when I'm uncomfortable. Instead
Mhm.
of gunning through that feeling, I'm slowing them down to be more present. And then I'm also building their own intuition. It's a muscle.
Mhm.
It's a muscle.
Right.
So people say, yeah, that's what my gut says, but our gut is so
That's right.
messed up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't even know we're reading the right gut. You know
Exactly. Yeah. Because sometimes our yeah, exactly. So it's what we're eating and all of that is
what we're eating, our environment, what we're letting in our ears and our eyes. And I'm like, but your gut is tuned really way out of whack right now. So it's like
Mhm.
an attunement.
That's true.
We're just kind of tuning. And then we're making sure that them and we're on the same wavelength. So I can
Mhm.
hear them and perceive what they're saying. And then I have a structure in place. So we start with the body scan. Then we
Mhm.
go to our wins. And then we look at what did we talk about last session?
Mhm.
What are you looking to get out of this session? And
Right.
then I'm going to share what I'm observing. You tell me if that's exactly where you want us to lean into, or is there something else bothering you more? And then
Mhm.
we know by the end of the session, we want to have a strategy around how we're going to engage that thing. So we
Mhm.
have a good win and a breakthrough. The next session, we take that thread and we just
And keep going. Mhm.
keep going. So that's how it works. And then people can sign up for as long as they want. They can
Mhm.
cancel anytime. So the commitment is not too much. Like I feel like it's another piece of work, which people
Yeah.
don't like. I realize
Yeah.
they like to feel locked in. So when it's more free flowing, they can
Mhm.
come in when they need it, come
Okay.
out. I have at least 4 people that rejoined that
Mhm.
I coached like 3 years ago, and then they're just like, I'm feeling another lull, and then
Yeah,
we're like,
and you come
okay,
back in. That's
yeah.
important, and that's important. You can come back in when you really feel like you need it. But tell me, like, what types of people come to you? Like, how do they come to you? What are the ones that you see most often? What are they dealing with, and then they find you?
Okay. The ones I see most often, they're women.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, they're women, they're entrepreneurs, and they're working a job.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, they're women that are entrepreneurs working a job and they are a mother or they're looking to also have a child.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, there are women that are entrepreneurs, that are mothers, that are have children, looking to have children, or lately I've had women that are actually going through menopause,
Mm-hmm.
and which is,
The
I don't, again,
really,
the energy must be shifting because
yeah.
the wave comes in and I'm like, okay, this is the fourth person that came to me with the same
Yeah,
thing.
and that's like that energy is around a lot. Like Oprah just had a special, like people are starting to talk about it more. So
Oh, that
I
must be
think
wild.
that people are recognizing that women are like, whoa, this is what's been going on. So let me get someone to help me with that. So yeah, that
Yep.
makes sense.
And they want to ground themselves. The
Hmm.
men that I've had, they all wanted to launch a business. So they wanted to scale. So I think I don't remember, no, I wasn't here. We spoke about one. I coached him. He's in Atlanta. Now he's in Whole Foods and Kroger's. And at that
Yeah,
time,
talk about him on the first hidden healing, but you
yeah,
can
yeah.
on the first hidden healing, but you can talk about him again. You can bring it up again so people can understand in relation to coaching. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. And I think he even came on. He was in the middle of a delivery. And I
Uh-huh.
black man, I can't remember his name excuses, but he really thrived. And in that moment, he was looking to sign a contract. It was Publix or Kroger's. And he
Hmm.
wanted to know, should he sign the contract? Was that going to go in the way? And you know where we went? He actually told this story live, so I don't feel bad repeating it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It went to him making up his bed. That's where we landed. And I told him how he does one thing is how he does everything. And he said, I know that we're in tune because my grandmother used to always say that to me.
Say that. That's
And I
right.
said, make up your bed every day because he couldn't keep up with the books and he was afraid of, outgrowing his infrastructure and all the things. And I said, do one thing well that
That's
gives you
right.
structure. And he said that changed everything for him. And now
Yeah.
he's in multiple. So everybody's looking for something different, but entrepreneurs for sure. And I see when it's male, typically they're coming for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Women transition. I think we transition
Yeah.
a lot. Every month
Mhm.
we transition, right?
Absolutely.
And so
Absolutely.
I got
Mhm.
a lot of women because
Mhm.
we're like constantly on this, we're
Mhm.
holding everything. We're
Mhm.
always
Mhm.
holding. So we want a release and we want someone that's just for us. Hey, can I
Mhm.
sit with you because everything else I'm doing for other people, but this
People.
is
Yeah.
just for me.
For
Um,
me. That's
so
right.
it's like a pouring. I'm pouring into them so they feel full, and then they can
Mhm.
go back into the world. And we do it typically twice a month. Um,
Mhm.
so they have about 2 weeks to put in action, and then we come
Mhm.
back together. It's a very action oriented. You have
Yeah.
to do the thing, or else it won't work. Because I don't want to be a part of your collection of
That's right. That's
my
right.
coach, and then I met my therapist, and then I'm going
Yeah.
to yoga, and it's
But
like,
you
but do
have
you
to
see the
do.
goal?
Yeah. Mhm. That's right. You have now collecting. You have to do. But also, I know you work with young people too. I know you work with students, so you could talk. You can talk a
Yeah, I
little bit
forgot
about
about that.
that.
Thank you, thank you. So
Yeah.
my main client, again, I'm thinking I'm not only client of the president, my main client actually were my students from Black Star,
Yeah.
and I stay up with them. So earlier today, I actually had one. She said she was engaged in Chat GPT, and Chat gave her like her 10-year scope, and she
Uh-huh.
said, "Now I'm you," and she sent me a screenshot. The
Right.
things they was telling her to
Yeah.
do, like, okay,
Yeah.
get your doctorate and then go
Yeah.
overseas and then leverage
Yeah.
this, and then you're here
Do that.
temporary.
That's
She was
right.
like, oh my gosh, look at this. And I was like, I sent her
Yeah.
the nails and I was like, blueprint, you see it, right? And so we laughed about it. But
Yep.
my students are like, they're my biggest success stories
Yeah.
because they're still in it. They
Mhm.
never stop being my
Mhm.
students, right? So
Mhm.
they'll call me and we'll do a session, or they'll say, "Hey, I'm at a transition. I don't know."
Yeah.
Right now, one of my students is in Valencia, Spain,
Yeah.
eating dinner with Ajita and Ariel, and I'm just like losing my mind
Yeah.
because of the connection. Because she
The
was like,
connection.
"I don't
Yeah.
want to move back to the U.S. to have a child. I
Yeah.
want to stay in Europe to have my child." And so everybody's at these different levels, but my
That's
students,
right.
I would say I keep the closest relationship.
Yeah,
They're
and I think that's so critical, right? So I think it's because, you are working with them over a long period of time. And I think this is something people really need to hear, that everybody needs coaches. So oftentimes we think it's only like when you're in business or only when you have a transition, but it's also just like you said, any like everybody needs a coach for
yeah,
something. So
yeah,
yes, you said different time periods that may be more critical, but just in general, they're gonna just talk things through or what you're thinking, like where you want to go next,
alignment. Yeah,
alignment, like we said, your spiritual alignment, educational alignment, just all things. And like it's also connections, because like you said, you're connecting people, to other people, are in a particular place. Like, yeah, I know somebody that went there. I was just talking to my daughter. She wants to go to Guatemala. And I'm like, yeah, I know somebody just went there. So you should talk to them first, before you go, just so, you can know what to expect. So it's also connection. I think that that's important, but, I asked you so many questions, but anything you want to, highlight and talk about before we close?
Yes, yes. So speaking of my students, I'm seeing a habit in this generation, and I want to use this platform to really speak about it, where students will go, they will follow. So we're getting the therapy now, right? We're going to the therapist, we're getting the help, and then we're taking that diagnosis and that moment in time and we're stretching it to forever. I
Yeah.
just want to affirm for people that
Mhm.
today you may feel depressed. You may be in a state of depression,
That's right.
but every day you may not feel that way. So you
Yeah.
don't have to wake up remembering, oh, I'm depressed, and then go back
I'm
into that.
supposed to act that way, right?
You know,
Right.
it's like a
Yeah.
script. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, do you feel that way today? You seem
Yeah.
like
It's kind of
you
like it's attached to, like, this is my personality. Like, I can't
it
change
becomes a
it.
part of the
Yeah.
personality, right?
Yeah.
And it's
Like,
fixed.
I'm supposed to be depressed. Like, yeah. Yeah.
And not and then it becomes this script and it's like, yeah, I'm the awkward girl. And then it's like your script.
Hmm.
And I'm like, well,
Hmm.
you can have awkward moments,
Yeah.
but you don't have to be the awkward girl. That's your
Yeah.
choice, right?
Yeah.
It
Mhm.
becomes like this personality badge
Mhm.
of honor. Oh, I have this and I have
Yeah.
this. I
Yeah.
also have this. So we swung the pendulum too far to the other side. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm happy that we're we're
Yeah.
going and we're getting the help we need. But
Mhm.
everybody, once you get the information, again, you have to do something about it. You
That's
don't want
right.
to stay in that state permanently. So you have
Mhm.
to do the work. And a good
Mhm.
clinician will give you the work. And I find that I work best when someone has their own stuff going on. And then they're also working with me as a coach. And I tell them, especially young people right now, they have
Mhm.
this state of depression. And I get it. COVID, school, the whole world kind of changed within their lifetime. So they're
Mhm.
dealing with a lot. And I tell them, but there are spiritual baths you can take.
That's
Sunshine
right.
is magical. Fresh
Yeah.
air is magical. You're also in your room all day. Like
Mhm.
you're
That's true.
also in school online.
That's right.
You're not engaged in a community. And
Yeah.
so it could be that, and it could also be so many other things. I just want people to be very flexible, especially our young people, especially
Mhm.
if you're in school, and that's elementary through college, university, abroad,
Mhm.
local. Just remember, give yourself grace,
Mhm.
remain in alignment, and ground yourselves.
That's right.
You can do hard things well. Is
Mhm.
something I'm always telling. Micah sees a new problem. He's like, I can't do it. It's hard.
Yeah.
You didn't
Yeah.
even
Right.
try. So
Yes, you can do hard things.
you
That's
can
right.
do hard things and you can do them well. So
Yeah.
I tell it's using your intuition, staying in alignment, being grounded, engaging community, and
Mhm.
having a coach to really help keep that kind of muscle
Mhm.
strong. Okay, I remember. I remember who I am. You're not looking for them to carry you. You're looking
Mhm.
for them to remind you who you are so you can carry yourself.
Mhm. That's
So
right.
that's what I can say. And I
Yeah.
have some other things going on because I
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
things
Okay,
going
we're
on.
gonna get to that in one second. So let me just say this, then thank you so much for pouring into us today. I mean, it was really so awesome. Just reminding us that healing is not just about what we're recovering from, but it's also like what we're rising to. And to our audience, your vision matters, your purpose is sacred, and success is your birthright. But it doesn't
Mhm.
have to come from the hustle alone, so we can have a whole nother episode on the hustle. But it comes from alignment and clarity, like you said, all the things, and honoring your spirit as you move forward. So, as you're ready to go deeper, don't forget about our African and African diaspora natural and traditional medicine certificate program, where we're looking at, traditional healing and spiritual development and cultural practices to help you rise to your highest self. Also those who are, healthcare providers or other providers, or something that you'll really should be interested in. So check that out. Next Sunday or next week, we're going to be talking about neurodivergence and
Mhm.
spirituality. So it's a whole, yeah, it was a really great topic. Like, and just, how what makes us different may actually be our divine design, so you don't want to miss that. So Zinga, talk to us about how folks, talk to us about what you're doing now, and then how folks can connect with you, to work with you one on one or in a group or whatever you're doing. So tell us, what you're
Okay.
doing.
I can't wait to hear the neurodivergent one. That's
It's
it's just
exciting.
thing for me.
I know that's a whole thing. Like I said, this is sort of new to me, so I'll talk about that next week. It's really
I'm
interesting.
excited about that. You said a word though, design. That's even in
Yeah,
my tagline. Like
yeah,
everything is by design. I'm
that's
big
right.
on design.
Yep.
So I don't want to get into that. That's exciting. To get
Uh-huh.
into contact with me, nzingaso.co, NZINGHASO.co. So
Mhm.
that's the website.
Yeah.
My courses are coming. I have to find, I want to make sure I don't deliver anything to the market that is not me. And my
Mhm.
course is feeling flat. Like I could have looked
Mhm.
this up online. AI could have told me that. Like they don't have enough of
Mhm.
me in there. So I'm still working on those. But
Mhm.
you can find me at zingaso.co. You can sign up there. We can connect. You can connect with me on Instagram. Either way, we can see each other soon.
Mhm.
And I have a trip going to Ghana. I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
It is July.
Mhm.
It is early July. So you can go on ENZ's Instagram. We'll also leave the information
We'll link
and you
that.
can check out that trip. I hope you join us there and you can learn more about traditional spirituality, African practices, and it really works in alignment with the work that Arletha is doing and
Mhm.
providing. So it'd be a great like, oh, value add.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
take this and you do that. It would just kind of further deepen you and your
Mhm.
understanding of it as we're all on this journey together. So you
Yeah.
can do that with ENZ, you can do that with Nzingaso.co. And Black Stars graduating two of our
Yeah.
premier seniors. Shout
Yep.
out to Jayla and Naya Bingi. They
Yeah.
are graduating
Congratulations. Yeah.
end of April. So we're graduating another cohort. Um, and one of our students, she actually did this from Nigeria. So she
Awesome.
flew back to graduate. I'm really excited. I just got their cords and all their stoles and things.
Yeah.
Yvonne was like, okay, graduate. It's like a whole house of information. So,
Awesome. I love
um,
it.
and the community will be able to pin them with pins and give
Mhm.
them some affirmations to send them on. Naya Bingi's going to Spelman. She's in the
That's
honors
right.
program.
That's right.
And
That's right.
Jill is taking a gap year. She's considering
Okay.
SCAD. She's an
Nice.
artist, but
Mhm.
she just wants to breathe for it. And I think that's perfectly
Understand.
healthy.
Yep. It
So
is. That's
I'm
right.
really proud of both of them for making those decisions for themselves and alongside their parents. And
Mhm.
I will be coaching and working with them forever. They got me for life, whether they want it or not.
That's right. And that's important. Somebody got to have you for like your family, of course, but it's so important. And I'm sure as a coach, you become like family as a teacher and then a coach.
Absolutely.
But again, I just really think it's so important, that we just really understand the power of coaching and spiritual alignment and, energy alignment, education alignment, all of the things. It's just
Right.
businesses and everything that you're doing. I think too often people think, oh, I can just do this myself, right? But you're not learning if you do not have, you have to be open and willing to learn, and have a teacher, to have a coach. And,
Hmm.
you can get so big in age, you still need a coach. You know what I'm saying? So I have, my mother is elderly, but she still needs a coach, to kind of keep her
Right.
into like, yeah, you should be getting out. You don't have to sit in the house all day.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's not a thing like you just need a coach for, only for a business. So I really want people to kind of tune into that because it's so powerful and it's so important,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
And I will say that my coach right now is not helping me do anything in particular.
Mm-hmm.
It is a sounding board. So
Yep.
I'm sharing my ideas and I want to hear myself say it. And I want
Mm-hmm.
someone who strategically and who's spiritually aligned with me to repeat back to me what I'm really saying and say,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this is your pattern. Did you look at that? And I'm going, oh, because we always have goals. To
That's
live
right.
is to grow. So as long as we're here, we're always growing and expanding. And again, the world is changing. So
Mm-hmm.
jobs that were secure 2 years ago, they're no longer secure right now. So a
That's
lot of
right.
us are reinventing ourselves. Like, how do we
Exactly.
stay
They're
fresh?
reinventing. That's
And
right.
how do we stay relevant in this
Right.
changing time? And so that information is a little bit challenging to do in your head and a little bit
That's
dangerous
right. Yeah. That's
because
right.
you're still in there with all of your stuff. The
That's
second
right.
you say it, sometimes you solve it just by saying it out loud. You're like, oh, you hear it
Mhm.
back. You're like, oh, wait a minute, I
Yeah.
think that was my solution.
That's
So
right.
I don't
Yeah,
want
and some people, like you said, and people are just afraid. So if you've been doing this particular type of work for 20 years, and now it's like, and you get stuck
Exactly.
there, like, I can only do this type of work, but you might be able to open a business. You might have expertise that you learn there that actually might be better than sitting
Right?
in an office for, every day, all day
Coworkers for
long,
20
where
years.
you have more freedom. Exactly. So it's kind of like use this opportunity,
Right.
although it's a hard time, but also use it as an opportunity to become or to, go where you always dreamed about
Yeah.
going. So I think that's important. So thank you so much, Zinga.
You're
And to our
welcome.
audience, until next time, stay
Can I say
grounded.
this last thing?
Yes, go
So
ahead.
time to wrap up. I just
Yeah.
want to let you know that
Uh-huh.
coaches, if they're good, they have a key, and what they're unlocking is your potential. And I just think
Right.
that I want to leave that as your lasting message.
Yes, let's leave it there. That's right.
Your
Mhm.
potential.
Unlocking potential. That's so
Yeah.
important. So yes, family, you heard that. So, so next time, we'll see you next time. Stay grounded, stay guided, and keep uncovering hidden healing all around you. So peace and power. And thanks so much.
Bye.